Being here on Saturday afternoon. I appreciate it, especially given the time of year. My name is Stacey Cann. I'm a PhD candidate in art education. So I'm going to present my thesis work, but it is in progress. So right now I'm just doing data collection, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I was interested in teaching collaboration in the university context, in particular the undergraduate context. So why was I interested in collaboration? So in the visual arts in particular, there is a strong kind of myth of the lone genius, although I do feel like this is sprinkled throughout many, many subjects, this idea that one person suddenly comes up with this brilliant invention on their other people with fabricators to create artworks. Is actually a lot less. And if we think about this in the way that I write a lot with other people, and if you think in the academic context of co-authoring papers versus being a single author or the primary author on papers, it sort of works in the same way in the art world. There's also kind of a limited scholarship around both teaching in the university context, but also collaboration in the visual arts. So we get like stories about artists who work together, but there's not a lot of academic research on this subject. So my methodology. So I'm using phenomenology as a main, main methodology. I was really interested in the description of experience. So how do we feel when we collaborate? How do we experience collaboration in the classroom? And how do those experiences differ from other work that we were doing in the classroom? So I'm doing interviews with artists who work collaboratively, with educators who teach collaborative projects in their visual arts university classrooms, and with students who have worked in collaborative projects within the undergraduate university classroom. I'm also doing field notes, so I'm teaching a course where my students are doing collaborative projects, and my perspective as an educator and how my experience teaching collaboration within the classroom has gone. So as an overarching theoretical framework, I'm using actor network theory. the reason for this, even though one may say that it is slightly contradictory to phenomenology, is because I think that the material aspects of art making is really important to how collaboration is experienced making art. When we're making artwork, we're manipulating things, and those things change the way that we interact with each other. So they have a real impact on the way that we experience the collaboration and have agency. So far, I've interviewed artists and art educators, and I'm in the process of doing field notes, so my class is happening right now. The preliminary findings, these are mostly from the interviews. So having flexibility, when we teach collaborative projects, we need to be more flexible about how our students are working, how much, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but how they go about getting to the end of the project. So giving them time to get to know each other and actually spend time developing ideas together is a really important part of making sure that they're successful. Which brings us to point number 2, it takes more time. The projects take more time than if they worked individually. This was something that when you have a course with a syllabus and you want to get through a lot of information in your course, you have to understand that it will take more time if they're working collaboratively, and giving them enough time to be successful in their projects. And openness. So being flexible about how they want to work with each other, and whether or not some students are really against working collaboratively, usually because they've had some sort of negative experience in the past. It usually goes something like, I did all the work and the other person did nothing, or yeah, no, that's usually it. Or that they had some sort of really strong interpersonal conflict with the person that they're working with. I think we probably all worked in groups like that at some point in our academic or professional careers. So listening to what the students' concerns are regarding collaboration and thinking about ways to kind of mitigate those concerns. So I talked to one university instructor who had a student come to her saying, I'm open to it, but I'm really kind of hesitant to work collaboratively because I've had this negative experience. And so they talked through ways to kind of mitigate that and make sure that they have kind of a better experience this time. And in fact, the project ended up being quite successful and the student was happy with it. So I think it takes more of us as educators, because we have to deal with interpersonal conflict, as the students do, or the potential for interpersonal conflict. So the potential value of collaboration. So one of the other reasons that I didn't mention earlier is in the visual arts, especially from undergraduate degrees, only 5% of students after 10 years are doing anything related to the field, which includes teaching in the field, like teaching elementary school. The retention rate in the field is atrocious. So how do we create support networks within the field for when our students graduate? And I think working collaboratively can help create those support networks and professional networks for our students for when they graduate. So when they graduate, they aren't just on their own. It strengthens communication, so they have to express their ideas and in some ways argue for their own ideas within their group, support why they think it's a good idea. And they build skills and ideas from each other, not just me or the instructor. So they're peer teaching as they're creating their projects. So the next steps of my research is to do interviews with my students. So part of the ethics was that I have no idea how many of my students have agreed to be interviewed, and I won't until my grades are submitted. So We'll see how many interviews end up happening, if really any, actually. And combining the experiences of the students, the instructors, and thinking about how artists in the field also work in collaborations. I want to create some kind of guidelines that may work when we're teaching collaborative projects to help support our students being successful. Because I think that even when collaboration is incorporated in the classroom, often it's just like, okay, work together, off you go. And we don't really talk about what it means to work successfully in a collaborative project. And I think that's it. So if there are any questions, I'm happy